Hello and welcome to the third edition of Biobasics Huddle. This is Ramesh Chandran from Biobasics. For those who are new to Biobasics Huddle, this is where we get together to talk about things that really matter to us, like food and health and being sustainable and being eco-friendly and things like that. In the last two huddles, we had experts from yoga and Ayurveda who helped us understand how we can build immunity from within, particularly in today's corona context. So please visit our YouTube channel to check out those recordings of those sessions. Today we are going to look at yet another related perspective, and that's of nature cure. So to those who are not familiar with Biobasics, we at Biobasics ask everyone to be organic, which essentially means being close to nature, understanding and respecting nature. So nature cure is right up our alley. And I think talking about nature cure is very apt in today's context, where as a species, we've become so powerful that most of the times we think we can dominate nature. I remember in 2005, during our US days, Katrina, the cyclone or whatever it was called, had just happened. And over 1,000 people had died. And I distinctly remember the US government bringing out a full page advertisement in the Wall Street Journal saying that we will overcome nature, that we will defeat nature. And I didn't know better then, but I did know that there was something wrong in that approach. It didn't strike me then that we are part of nature. And there's no question of defeating nature. If we were to defeat nature, we are just defeating ourselves. And sadly today, in the corona context, we are hearing the same rallying cry. So let us remember, when we say nature cure, it doesn't mean nature needs any cure. It is us as human beings who need cure. Nature has existed millions of years before us and will exist long after we've gone. So let us have that humility as a species. Okay, so that's what I wanted to start off with. Let me now introduce Nisha Srinivasan, who is our guest today, who is a nature cure educator. To put it very modestly, I must say, she's been our go-to person for nature cure personally and for Biobasics, and has inspired us to continue to follow naturopathy principles in our daily lives, which we have been largely sticking to. Previously, she's been a techie working in the US until she and her husband Raghu, who's also here, I believe, who's another inspiring person. And they decided to come back to India and lead a more, what I would call a natural life. Both of them run a farm outside Coimbatore and farm school their son, Om. So she's part of a bigger group called Service Space that connects thousands of people across several countries, and also a part of this new organization.
So thank you everyone, and thank you each and every participant here. Many of you who I know, some of you I'm getting to know. Thank you so much. I hope your time is worth the while. And I just want to give a note of caution that I live in a village, so my network can get choppy sometimes. I apologize in advance if that happens, and I'll make it up in some way if that happens. So Ramesh, I also have a request to you. Can we start this session with a minute of silence, because I would like to express gratitude silently to my teachers and everyone who's got us here.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nisha. Let us start off by first understanding, maybe you could start off by saying what the basic principles are underlying nature cure, and particularly how they differ from the mainstream thinking, particularly the allopathy way of thinking.
Yeah. So the very basic principle in nature cure is that every living being, that includes all of us, is endowed with the intelligence, the kind of intelligence that is innate, the kind of intelligence that is inherent inside us, that is needed for repairing, maintaining, and improving ourselves. And we have unshakable faith in this intelligence, because that's what has brought us this far, from a single cellular organism to here. And also, if you look at the method of treatment, nature cure focuses more on eradication of the cause. And the cause is a single cause, which is accumulation of toxins. So the cure is a single cure, which is the removal of toxins, right? That's accumulated in the body and sometimes the mind, many times the mind. So many systems that we know in modern science today, modern science-based systems, resort to suppression, right? It's very easy to kill the smell and kiss the dirt, but nature cure doesn't believe in that. Also, nature cure is very holistic. It sees the body and mind as a connected entity. Everything affects everything. Like if I have a knee pain, I would still do pranayama. I don't have a lung infection, but I will still do pranayama. So, this is probably the most important thing and differentiator. We rely on, and we rely only on, the 5 elements: space, air, light, water, and earth, to repair and maintain and improve ourselves. It is on 5 elements to repair and heal the body. So our teacher used to tell this story in every class about how if you have a wall made of brick, and you have a hole in it, you need to fill it with bricks. You can't fill it with some other material and expect it to hold together, right? Our body is made up of 5 elements. Therefore, if we have an issue with the body, we need the same 5 elements to heal ourselves and patch ourselves and fix ourselves and improve ourselves. And because of this holistic approach, our communication is also probably very different. A mainstream doctor would probably say to an alcoholic person, stop drinking alcohol because it affects your liver. But for a nature curist, the physical, mental, and spiritual health are one. And we cannot overlook the fact that drinking alcohol also clouds our mind, and it also affects the whole body, and it also affects our relationships. So I think these are some of the differences I can think of for now. Yeah. Thanks, Ramesh.
So going back to, I know that Ayurveda has its origins in India, but tell us a little bit about the history of nature cure, where it originated, how did it come to India, how did we come to know of nature cure, or is it truly an Indian practice or tradition?
Okay, this is a little tough to answer, because we believe that nature cure has these 4 characteristics. It's Anadi, it's Ananta, it's Paurushya, and it is Sanatana, which means it is a science with no beginning, no end, and it is not man-made, but just rediscovered by man. In that sense, there is no answer for this question because it is just rediscovered by men and women time to time, right? And so many of our ancient sages, including Thiruvallur, have rediscovered it. And one of the recent discoveries that happened in the West was in the 1800s by a peasant named Vincent Presnes. And he lived in rural Austria, very close to Germany. And he cured himself accidentally by sitting in a stream of running water. But I don't think it was an accident. It was his intuition, probably, right? He lived on a farm and he was pretty close to nature. And news of his cure kind of spread. And he soon started treating like royalty who had like incurable diseases. So the news spread even more. And there was this one person called Louis Cunet who smelled something good in it, but he couldn't quite figure out what it is because Presnes, being a farmer, wasn't like very articulate. So Cunet just decided to stay with Presnes for like 6 long years and document every single thing that he did to every single person who came to him for healing, right? He would hear Presnes say something like, oh, walk barefoot. Oh, eat vegetarian food. Oh, it's aching, go sit in the stream with that part touching the water, you know? So he just wrote everything and then arrived at a theory and wrote a very small but powerful book called The and the new internet for download. Lakshmana Sharma, who was
you froze up a little bit there, Nisha. I'm not sure if everybody heard the last piece. If you want to repeat that. Yeah, Nisha, go on.
Yeah. So is this better, Ramesh?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So Acharya Lakshmana Sharma had this rare condition called dyspepsia, and it was considered incurable at that time. And so Lakshmana Sharma ji, he got hold of this book by Louis Cunet. He read it and he cured himself, and he couldn't contain his excitement. He did so many experiments on himself. He observed so much that he ended up writing a magnum opus called Swadhina Swasthya Mahavidya, which is like, so many Sanskrit shlokas, hundreds of them arranged in neat little chapters. Each chapter would have probably like 100 shlokas. And then he took it to religious sages and then said, why I'm not able to see more of this in art literature, right? And then they said, yes, it is there. You probably come across it, but you just not put it in context. And then they, kind of introduced him to Thirumandiram and other literature where nature cure is just embedded. It is entrenched within the literature. It's not given as nature cure, chapter 1, right? So then, he also, Lakshmana Sharma also felt the need to translate the book in English because a lot of people had lost the knowledge of how to read and understand Sanskritam by then. So then he wrote this equivalent magnum opus called Practical Nature Cure. It's our Bible. And his son Ganesha Sharma also took up nature cure education, and he revolutionized it actually. He would go from village to village, call all the women in the evening and say, hey, come on, let's learn it experientially. Let's cook together. Let's talk together. And let's see how you can change few things here and there. And then, you become your own doctor. And he totally brought down the financial barrier for learning, to take care of yourself. And he created so many nice recipes, and he was really a people's educator. And at a Karma Life, we try to follow his spirit because we also don't charge a preset fees. People just contribute what they feel like after the camp. And we try to foster the gift ecology that he has started with that spirit. And one of Ganesh Sharma's students is Balakrishna Naya, who was a school teacher in Coimbatore. And he is the one who went for weekend classes for 6 months under Ganesh Sharma, learned this, and then started practicing it. And one of our core Akarma volunteers, Anand, happened to attend a session by him, and he's a teacher par excellence. Unfortunately, he's no more. But Balakrishna Naya imparted this education to Anand, and then Anand also discovered Ganesh Sharma's son, Dr. Arun Sharma, who is still practicing nature cure, and we started learning from him also. So that's how nature cure, as we know it, is present today, and it has also created a lot of nature cure educators, which I'm very happy about. Yeah, thank you for asking this question. It allowed me to pay gratitude to my teachers once more. Yeah.
Right, right. No, I asked because the first time I came across nature cure was through Gandhiji's books, where he himself has talked about nature cure. And I grew up near Pune. I mean, in Pune. So near Pune, there is this place called Urli Kanchan, which is an institute where Gandhiji, I believe Vinoba Bhave also was involved with that. And so, and I asked because the Ayush ministry that we talk about, in the government today, doesn't have an N in it. So I was wondering whether nature cure is part of Ayush or not, because Ayurveda is, Siddha is, homeopathy is.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked.
Good question. Just to kind of round off the Gandhiji reference there's a connection. So there were 3 copies of the New Science of Healing that were in India, that were supposed to be available in India at that time. Gandhiji had one of the copies. Acharya Lakshmana Sharma had the second copy, and I don't know who had the third copy. So Gandhiji was also influenced by the New Science of Healing, and then he decided to do the Urli Kanchan experiment, which is like National Institute of Naturopathy today. So lots of good connections there. And Lakshmana Sharma himself was a Gandhian too. So coming to Ayush, right? Nature cure is part of Ayush. The why in Ayush, yoga and naturopathy, or yoga and naturopathic sciences. So the government has like quite a few programs, like having a dedicated nature cure hospital, right? In I think one in every state. In Tamil Nadu, it is in Chennai, in Arumbakam. It is a pretty nice hospital for a government hospital. It's pretty good. Anyone can go. It brings down the financial barriers for getting nature cure treatment if one needs it. The government is also hiring a lot of naturopathic doctors, even at the level of primary healthcare clinics. And as you would know, primary healthcare clinics are clinics of the government that are in villages. And but here the naturopaths work part-time. They are probably there just in the morning for a few hours, but still it's a step in the right direction. And of course, every government hospital has a full-time naturopath now. And of course, to create more and more naturopaths, there is a government-approved degree which has been running for a long time. It's called BYNS, Bachelor's in Yogic and Natural Sciences, and it's the equivalent of MBBS. But we have to also understand that nature cure education is a little different from naturopathy, because education focuses on health and not disease. Pathy comes from Latin pathos, which means disease. So all pathies deal with disease. Nature cure education deals with health promotion, because we believe that as you shine the light of health, the darkness of disease has no choice but to go away naturally. Thank you, Ramesh.
Yeah, okay. So let's just get into the thick of it in terms of the principles and practices of nature cure. And when it comes to food, let's start with food maybe, then we can go into health. So how does nature cure, what are the principles and practices that are related to food, if you could talk about that?
Okay, sure. This is a standard question, so I have a small presentation for it. I'm going to switch off my video and try screen sharing here. Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen yet?
can see it says Nisha. Yes, start. Yes, I can see the screen. I hope everyone else can see. I can see. Yes.
Okay, good. So nature cure differs a little bit in terms of what we consider as food. So for us, food is anything that nourishes us, right? And very often we overlook the role of the subtle elements that nourish us. And I just want to quickly run through those also. How do we allow space to nourish us, right? We eat only when we are hungry, so that way there is some space created in our cells, especially in the digestive tract, all the way in the alimentary canal, and we eat a little less than a full stomach. Ayurveda also advocates this, creating some space, and we rest the body so that we have some decluttering of activities, and we still the mind, so there is some decluttering of thoughts and emotions, and we also undertake something called fasting to create more space in the body. And how do you allow air to nourish us? See, the word allowing is very important here, because all of these elements are out there to nourish us and in there to nourish us, but we need to remove our obstructions. So air, we try to breathe clean air, try to avoid pollution and crowded places. If a market is better to go at 11 a.m. instead of 3 p.m., it's better to go then. And it's also good to avoid air conditioning because it's just the same stale air circulating again and again. And of course, the number one positive way to increase circulation in our body and purification is pranayama. And I'm sure all of you are aware of it. And air basking, which is like, you are in the open among trees or plants or anything that is green, and allow the breeze to touch your body and caress it. And if you can do it in privacy, then you can even do it with minimal clothing. And how does light nourish us, right? And sun basking, don't forget the S in basking, my teacher would joke, because then it would become baking. So, sun rays help us in so many ways, and you have like so much research even coming out. But we have always been solar people, right? We rise with the sun and we set with the sun. So sun basking is very important. Again, minimal clothing or light clothing would help. 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes on the front and 10 minutes on the back. And for people who are sensitive, you can also do sun basking through a leaf. Like if you have a hurt part and it hurts to expose it to the sun, but at the same time it is good. So what do? You expose it through a leaf, with a leaf between the sun and the body part. And partial exposure, because the sun is also a disinfectant. Again, very helpful for knee pain and wherever circulation seems to be clogged. And water, it's an everyday element that we use, reuse, and abuse. So we try to drink pure water. We can put water out in the sun and tie it with a piece of white cloth, then bring it back into the house, let it cool, and then have it. We can drink water sip by sip, and that would really nourish the areas that are really thirsty instead of just going straight to the stomach. The stomach is not thirsty, most often the mouth is thirsty. And drinking water only when you're thirsty is very important, because then we don't end up taxing the kidneys. And bathing in cool water, lukewarm water, and taking hydrotherapies when healing is needed. Earth foods, right? Earth foods are interesting. What's earth food? We can't eat earth. We don't eat dirt, at least, and or mud. I say dirt. I'm sorry, it's a slang. What I actually mean is mud. We don't eat mud, though. There are some references to practices where mud was directly consumed as nourishing food. That must be back in the days when it was not polluted, right? So what we mean by earth food is like the plants and trees from the earth give us produce and we eat that. So whole plant-based food is what we recommend. And so here is our body, right? It's very interesting that for the most part, the body takes care of itself, right? We have no control over what happens here or here in the liver or the stomach or the duodenum or, pancreas or the small intestine or the large intestine or even the rectum. We have no control over, when we want to excrete. I can't set an alarm and say 7 o'clock excretion time. But what we do have control over is this and this, right? We have control over what we pick up, how much of it we pick up, how we put it in the mouth, right? And with what awareness we do it, and whether we chew it or just gulp it down. And so there is very little degree of freedom that nature has given man, if you really look at it. Our degree of freedom is limited to this and this and this. The hand to mouth is the degree. And yet we manage to create havoc with that small degree of freedom, right? So I want to talk a little bit about, how we can be more mindful throughout the presentation, but some of it we can see now since you asked this question. One way, meal scores, right? What are meal scores? In Nature Cure, we look at everything and ask these 3 questions. Does it have water? Does it have fiber? Does it have life? And if it has water, give it a point. If it has fiber, give it 1 more point. If it has life, give it 1 more point, right? So I just want to take up some examples so this doesn't sound too hunky-dory. Let's say sambar rice, a staple food that I eat, right? It has like 5 major ingredients. The sambar I make has like tomatoes, and then typically, let's say, sprouted cowpea or any sprouted legume. And then let's say it is ashgod sambar, pushnika sambar. Then it has steamed ashgod pieces. And then I add coconut paste and I eat it along with unpolished cooked rice, right? If you really look at it, all of them have fiber, but only coconut paste and ashgod have retained the water. By sauteing the tomatoes, I've removed the water. And cowpea anyway is like a dense substance, so it doesn't have that much water by nature. And rice is also dense and it doesn't have that much water. But if you look at life, except the coconut paste, which has life, mainly because I added it at the end after switching off the stove, is the only one that has life. The enzymes in everything else has been destroyed by cooking, right? So it gets a score of only 8 out of 15. So much for all the hard work of making sambar rice, right? By contrast, if I look at a vegetable salad, right? What happens? The vegetable salad has a pretty high score, and this is a typical basic salad, nothing fancy about it. I take 2 parts cucumber, 1 part carrot, 1 part tomato, 1 part of coconut gratings, and some coriander leaves to my taste. And if you look at it, except carrot, which is like a crunchy vegetable, hard vegetable, so it doesn't have that much water, everything has everything, right? So it has a pretty high score. So we have vegetable salads for lunch regularly. Most people in the Nature Cure community here can attest to the benefits of having that. And so that brings us to fruits, which is, very high in water, fiber, and life mostly. So I'm not giving it a score because most fruits would score 3 out of 3, but I just want to show you that, all the common fruits that we can think of are rich in water, fiber, and life. Of course, there are some exceptions. And how do we eat them? And then the question of trying to understand why do we even eat them, right? So there is a food hierarchy. Just because some foods are better than others, it doesn't mean we eat only that. We try to combine everything, right? Let's start with what we have as is because it's the ultimate expression of nature. In terms of, a tree, the ultimate expression of a tree is the fruit, which contains the seed for so many more trees like that, right? And they pack the maximum nutrients. They need like so little time for digestion and so little energy for digestion, and they cleanse our body. And we eat fruits alone. We don't combine them. We don't combine them with any meals, right? And greens are also pretty high up there. They are full of life and fiber when eaten raw, and they digest very, very fast and help us with the elimination as well. It's best to eat greens that can be eaten raw in raw form. If we have to cook them, the conservative way to cook them would be to bring minimal amount of water to a boil And when the water is boiling nicely, switch off the stove, have finely chopped greens ready, just add it to the water and close the lid. And that residual heat is enough to cook the greens. Then if you want some masala like tomatoes or whatever, you can add them separately. And vegetables, I think no surprises here. They really build our body. Vegetables build our body because they are so rich in vitamins and minerals and fiber and all the nutrients. And they also have very healthy fat, which the body can use in place of the bad fat and send the bad fat as elimination if this good fat is available. And we eat vegetables in raw salads, as we saw, or we steam them or bake them. It's best not to boil them or pressure cook them and lose the nutrients. And sprouts, right? This is an interesting part. We have stopped using split dals. We use only legumes with skin, and that too in sprouted form. So I really need to plan the legume I need for tomorrow and soak it tonight and drain it tomorrow morning so I can get it ready and sprouted for tomorrow. And the sprout is such a beautiful thing because it takes this dense protein, right, and then cracks the thing open and comes out as a sprout, which would become, 2 leaves if you just allow it to be. And therefore, in that process, converting this whole complex protein into like a very simple protein. So it packs nutrients, and yet it is not hard to digest. So you can add it raw in salads. You can steam it as a snack like a sundal, or you can add on to a cooked meal like I used it in sambar. You could use it, or even as a sabzi kind of thing. And whole grains, we eat only whole grains, which is like, unpolished wheat, unpolished rice, unpolished millets, and they are very rich in macronutrients and fiber, needless to say. And they supply the sugar that our body needs very easily. And we eat grains with 3 parts vegetables because grains have a pasty quality to it. So it may go and stick in your intestine. So when we eat particularly whole grains with lots of vegetables, then it really enriches us. So if you want more recipes, there's a recipe page, and Ramesh or Madhu will give you the link at the end, I believe. So you can go to the recipe page and find various recipes for cooked food and salads and even like morning juices to substitute tea and coffee. Yeah. Ramesh, does that answer your question satisfactorily?
Absolutely. I think your website is up there. It's akarma.life. Do you call it akarma or akarma? What do you call it?
Akarma.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It's karma without attachment to the results. So it's action without attachment.
Okay, nice. So yeah, so akarma.life is a website that any of us can go and tap into that. Now stepping into the health part, and particularly in the context of COVID-19, so which I think the entire country, the world is kind of too worried about it. So from a health perspective, what would you say are the practices or the principles that Nature Cure would recommend?
So we are talking about health, we are talking about disease, since you mentioned COVID, right? That's how we look at it. Nature Cure has a very interesting perspective on disease and health. And since this is also a pretty standard question, I have a presentation. Since it's too much material, it might help to look at the presentation. Let me see if I can pull it out. Yeah. Can you see, Ramesh?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the fundamental understanding that we need to come to is that we are responsible for disease most of the times, right? And we kind of know.
Nisha? Yeah. We lost you there a little bit.
What is the it most prevents by so? Oh, okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, and we also combine many items like we are at a buffet, and we eat more for taste, and we eat because of who is with us, and we eat because it's a form of entertainment. All wrong reasons to eat, right? And the worst of which is we eat when we are not well. Instead of fasting, we feast. And we also suppress elimination because we want to finish that one presentation before going to the toilet, or we want to finish cooking that one dish and pack it for the kid before visiting the toilet. And we just have sedentary lives, spending hours and hours and then even more. And we typically sleep late because we have to catch up with everything happening on Facebook and beyond. And then in the morning, we get worried and stressed about, did I get enough sleep? And then when we go to work, we have to be ambitious and aggressive. Otherwise, they say you cannot climb the ladder. And overall, we sense, we feel a sense of being blocked or clogged, right? This is what we call disease. When we are not flowing, but we feel a sense of being blocked or clogged. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could even be like, your creativity is blocked. The thing is, we know the consequences of all these, and yet we continue to think that we don't know nothing about health. We know so much about disease, but we think we don't know anything about health, and that's the paradox. So what is disease according to Nature Cure? It is life's activity in an unclean body. Just like health is life's activity in a clean body. Like Acharya Lakshmana Sharma says this very beautifully in Swadhina Swasthya Mahavidya. He says, Pranasya nirmale dehe cheshtitam swasthya namakam. Pranasya samale dehe cheshtitam roga namakam. So if life's activity is acting on an unclean body, we call it disease. If life's activity is busy in a clean body, we call it health. I'm repeating it 3 times because this is really a fundamental shift in the way we think about disease and health. And so disease is just a lower state of health. And it is such an expression of life's will to restore health that disease should be amazed at. We should be amazed at disease. And what do we define by disease? That also we should make it very, very clear. In Nature Cure, the only diseases we recognize are toxicity, right? And when there is toxicity, the body will initiate an extraordinary process of cleaning and elimination, right? And we call these as acute diseases. Now, what are those extraordinary processes of elimination or acute diseases, right? We'll come to that in a minute. But before that, it's good to hold a few more perspectives. We already talked about how all diseases, regardless of what the name is, you can call it a neck pain, you can call it a knee pain, you can call it a back pain, but they're all indicative of accumulated toxins in that area, right? And therefore the treatment uniformly is to remove toxins. And how do you remove toxins? By giving food as medicine. And by food, again, we mean all the subtle foods, all the 5 elements. And we have this rule that what is food for the healthy alone can be medicine for the unhealthy. What is not food for the healthy cannot be medicine for the unhealthy. In Tamil, it is put very succinctly, unave marundu, unavalladu marundalla. Unave marundu, unavalladu marundalla. So there's no confusion. And increasing our level of health is really the only way we want to deal with disease. Again, it's like, you shine the light and darkness disappears. Darkness doesn't exist as an entity. Light is the entity. Darkness is not the entity. And so let's come to these extraordinary process of elimination, which we call as acute diseases. Cough and cold, fever, vomiting, and aches and pains. These are the acute diseases. And all other diseases in a healthy body, which is born with a normal set of genetic makeup, right? And there are no disabilities in the body when you were born or later in life. For such a body, all other diseases, we think, are happening from suppression of these or suppression of thoughts. Either we have unprocessed food in the body, which leads to these acute conditions, or we have unprocessed thoughts, which leads to more psychosomatic diseases. So the chronic diseases allow us to be functional, but not fully. I have arthritis, I can get by, I still walk, I still cook, I still talk, but I'm not like at my best. And degenerate disease means I'm not functional at all. Like it would be like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cancer, those are the degenerate diseases. But chronic diseases, following a nature cure lifestyle, reversal is very much possible, and we have seen a lot of that. With degenerate diseases, it is case to case, depends on so many factors. Yeah. How do you treat acute diseases? Like COVID is an acute disease. So that brings me to your question.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. How do you, if a COVID patient walked into nature cure, how would one treat the person?
Correct. So we've had 6 COVID cases in the nature cure circle, not necessarily for nature cure practitioners, but nature cure practitioners' family, where they have been in a position to take care of these people. And luckily, or gracefully, or scientifically, I would say that all 6 of them survived and are well. And we are not seeing the 50% mortality rate, though the sample space is very small for me to claim anything. But this is just the 6 people I know. I'm sure that there are many people out there who know 6 more and 6 more. So what did we do for them? So first thing is fasting. Fasting till temperature and symptoms come back to normal. Fasting till we regain normal breathing, right? And in Sanskritam we have this adage, Langanam Parama Aushadam. And fasting is the supreme medicine, right? And when we say fasting, it means water only. And plenty of pranayama. So these people were asked to do pranayama like 6 times a day. And sun basking, sit in the sun so the lungs expand, so the matter in the lungs has a chance to come out, right? So sun basking as much as possible in gentle light, take some rest, come back to the sun, drink some water, go back to the sun, right? And then water therapies to cleanse the gut. And if there was pain, if somebody experienced like tummy aches or vomiting sensations, then we do hip bath and other water therapies. But we've had, like nature cure doesn't distinguish between COVID and another thing like a typhoid or, or any other illness for that matter, because we believe that it is toxicity and the COVID virus is there because there is filth in there, which is food for the virus. Remove the food, which is the filth, and the virus cannot multiply. So fasting helps there. Yeah, thank you. Does it answer? Again, it's a little roundabout, but I just want to know if it is answering your question.
No, it does. What does Langanam mean again here? When you talk about Parama Aushadam, I understand, but what does Langanam mean?
Langanam means not eating anything, but just drinking water.
Fasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, so if you had any more slides, we can go through that. Otherwise, I think there are quite a few questions that have come up. I don't want to take any more of your time with my questions, and my questions are always there. But let's open it up to other questions. Maybe Madhu, if you want to take a look at the questions that have come through the chat. And Nisha, feel free to go through the chats yourself, and then you can identify questions you want to take, unless you have other slides that you want to cover.
I have some slides, but let's take a few questions and then maybe do the slides and then take a few more questions.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe come on, turn off the screen sharing so we can see you?
Yes.
You can switch on the video as well.
My screen sharing is paused. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. So, Madhu, you want to start at the beginning or?
Yeah, we have quite a few questions from the beginning.
Yes, please.
The first thing is there was a Nature Cure book that you had said there is a link available online. We kind of lost you in that moment. Can you say which book that is?
Yeah, it's the small book by Louis Cuny. It's called The New Science of Healing. If you just type The New Science of Healing in DuckDuckGo or Google, you'll get the downloadable PDF. It's a very small book. One can finish reading very fast.
Okay, the first question was, is it advisable to keep fasting alternative in a week for some months, say like 6 months, to keep ourselves free from diseases?
Fasting should be indicated by the body. What we do is something called half-day fasting. Every week, right? Every week we skip breakfast and lunch. And then around 4 p.m. or so, we break the fast with a fruit. And then at 6 p.m. or so, we have a light meal like a kanji, porridge, whatever. So there are people who fast every Sunday. There are people who fast every Monday. So once in a week, fasting is good enough for a healthy person.
There is, do we want to take questions about fasting together? Because there are multiple questions about fasting that are coming up.
It might be difficult for you to
Half-day fast, we break it at
just
4.
go one by one and cover the questions is what I would say.
Yes, okay. The next one is from Sheila ma'am. She was asking about, does naturopathy recommend drinking about 2 to 3 liters of water daily?
Nature Cure recommends listening to your own body. So if you feel thirsty, you drink water. If you don't feel thirsty, you don't drink water.
So how would you respond to this? We hear this eight glasses of water or so many liters of water. Is that something that you would not recommend?
In Nature Cure, we don't eat that much of salt or spice, right? 2 of our meals are raw and we are getting a lot of water. But what we are getting is water that is inherent in the fruits, inherent in the vegetables, right? And this water is the water which the plants have absorbed from the soil through osmosis, right? And it is packed with nutrients. So we are getting very high quality water that we don't feel thirsty. When you have like a fruits breakfast, why do you need to drink water after that? Or I've had raw vegetable salad for lunch and that packs so much water. Why do I need water after lunch? But if I do need, because maybe it is a windy day, it is so hot or whatever, then I respect that and then I sip on water.
Can I go to the next question?
Yes.
So in one of your slides, in the first, I think, initial slide, the tomato was marked under the no life food. So I think Amit sir had a question: is there is there a list of no life foods, or is it just the cooking?
It's the cooking that kills the enzymes. When we say life, we mean enzymes. Since we kill the enzymes, I said no life, but the same tomato in the salad came back to life.
Yeah, so all natural foods have life inherently, and cooking takes the life of it.
Correct. Except for some things like rice. If I take a grain of rice or even a cooked morsel of rice, doesn't matter which one, and then put it in the soil, I'm not going to get a paddy plant. Very unlikely, right? Because the process of removing the skin is likely to damage the sprout. And if you have such rice which still has the sprout, that's great, but still we'd be cooking it.
Okay. So great. So the next question was, what is the major difference between homeopathy and naturopathy or nature cure?
Homeopathy treats symptoms and naturopathy treats the cause. That's the basic difference.
Cause and symptoms, can you just elaborate a little more?
Yeah. So the cause may be that I have undigested chole bhature sitting in my stomach from the buffet last night. The symptom may be stomach pain or nausea or lack of hunger, lethargy, whatever. So homeopathy would treat like lethargy, whereas nature cure would treat what's inside that is sitting there undigested. And how do we treat it? By fasting. Or a combination of fasting and hydrotherapy.
There's a question from Kandan sir, which was asking about you had recommended a food list of food, right? Like having fresh vegetables, fruits. Does it depend on climatic conditions of where you live? Was the question.
Of course, in every place you'll have local foods that have flourished over the centuries. So if you can go to a farmer's market, that will be the best way to identify what are the local produce. And highly recommend going to a farmer's market to get fresh produce wherever we live.
So here, one of the things that we have been promoting is the concept of local and seasonal. This is kind of like right what you were saying. So we don't recommend having things which are exotic or imported fruits and vegetables, for example, and sticking to the seasons. So whatever is seasonal, whatever is available during that season, that's what we consume.
Yes.
But I think in the modern day paradigm, what has happened today is, I think we in the South, I think there's a lot of feeling that people who are diabetic and other such reasons, they feel that, well, they should not be eating so much of rice, and they want to shift towards wheat and chapatis. And we keep wondering and we keep asking, okay, this doesn't grow here. Why are you having so much of wheat? So any thoughts on that?
Actually, we just need to educate ourselves better. We need to grow in awareness. What else to say? Our awareness has to grow.
Right.
And you guys are doing a great job in that area. So I'm quickly going to run through some questions here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Issue of muscle pain, right? Given the solution of fasting. So
yeah, how is it connected was the question.
Right. It comes back to the innate intelligence in the body to heal itself. If there is a pain, the body knows about it before I know about it. And it has a way to heal it. It's part of the program, right? But I don't give it enough rest where it can act on it. So instead of working on the muscle pain, the body is forced to deal with the aloo paratha I am putting in, and then the banana after that, and then the ice cream after that, and then chocolate after that. So if I can give the system rest, the system will do its work because it has the intelligence to do so. And Prasad is asking, is there any nature cure tea in place of regular tea? On our website, we have some green juices. You can warm them up and you can have them as tea. And what to do for water congestion in the chest? Get on a good diet and do regular sun basking. And method of drinking water is eat your food, drink the water is what we practice. But what we should be doing is eat the water, drink the food. That means we should be eating the water as if it is a solid, sip by sip. And we should be drinking the food by chewing it so thoroughly that it becomes a liquid. And does fasting cure degenerative diseases? I don't know if I can say with confidence. Fasting does help in all conditions. And degenerative diseases depend on the person's remaining vitality, which is a topic which we cannot go into right here. So it's a case-to-case basis. But fasting will definitely help manage it better. Are decoctions allowed in nature cure? No, decoctions are not allowed in nature cure. It's not a question of allowed. We just say better food for better health. That's our dictum. So if you think decoction is better food, go for it. But I don't think it is better food. Does naturopathy recommend intermittent fasting as a way of life? See, the thing about intermittent fasting is that it enforces a certain clock on you. So then you forget what is the internal clock like. It's better that I eat when I feel hungry, and then once in a week do this intermittent fasting. Will nature cure heal myofascial trigger? It can. Again, it is on a case-to-case basis, but it definitely helps you manage it much better. And what is the reason for rise in sugar levels when diabetics consume fruits, and how to regulate it? So fruits have glucose and fructose. Now fructose doesn't cause spike, right? It's only the 50% of glucose that causes the spike. But it is such a simple sugar that the system can easily digest it. The problem is people who are diabetic eat fruits along with a heavy meal. And then they say, I ate fruits and then the sugar level spiked. And I'm sorry if that's not the case, but there are so many people in our system who are diabetic and they eat fruits for breakfast and they are well. And they are not insulin dependent anymore. So it's better that for such people, a whole spectrum of education is given before they just, start implementing something that they hear or that they hear somewhere else, and then they piece it together into their own knowledge system. It's not going to work. It's better that they have comprehensive education. Yashoda is asking how to treat chronic disease. The first step in treating chronic disease is what we said here: follow a healthy lifestyle, and 2 raw meals and 1 cooked meal, and then regular exercise, and a few things that we will look at now. How does nature cure help in dealing with severe anxiety? Yes. So nature cure food allows for the microbiome in our gut to flourish because it is very rich in fiber, which is the food for our gut, and for our gut bacteria and viri and fungi. And they play a huge role in controlling our mental health, because they play a huge role in controlling the hormones, which are the messengers in our system. And sunbasking will also help. So get on a good diet and do sunbasking and plenty of exercise. How to cure allergies, right? Allergy for a particular item is again an issue with how our immune system is working against ourselves. So again, with good diet that is rich in fiber and good practices, this will go away. And yes, thank you, Shankar, for sharing the recipes. Yes, toner is not a natural process. How is it recommended in naturopathy? So the very point of toner is to outgrow it. We do so many things that are not natural. We consume so many things that are not natural. We go and eat, chili paratha. It's not natural. But we need to now offset it. That's where toner comes in. Toner is not about forced elimination. It is about toning the rectum, which is a very small part of the intestine. We use very little water. It is non-violent. And if you use it mindfully, then you don't need to use it at all, especially with regular healthy lifestyle, except when there is an illness and you have to take care of it. Does nature cure heal mental illness, bipolar, depression, anxiety? We are seeing very good, very positive results here, especially with more sunbasking and more spending time in nature, barefoot, lying on the ground, connecting to the earth, and occupying oneself in a meaningful way. So many of these things, along with good diet and exercise, are helping. What is the advice for gastric problem? Gastric problem is just one more disease. Nature cure does not treat gastric problem any differently than knee pain. We just need to go for the same thing: eat positive foods, have positive thoughts, exercise well, and be engaged. So we don't have to visit the kitchen so much, opening the cupboards, looking for this and that in the pantry, which may eventually cause the gastric problem. So engage our mind in a meaningful way is also very important. Eating uncooked food as early in the day as possible. What do you think of this? And eating on time or eating on being hungry? I would vote with eating on being hungry, because then we are truly listening to the body. Whenever we listen to the body, we strengthen those signals, and therefore the body becomes even more responsive, even more sensitive. What is the one food that we should take with Vata dosh? Vata dosh is the terminology from Ayurveda. I'm sorry, so I won't be able to map it here. Ramesh, should I just keep going? We seem to be past.
Please. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
There are quite a few questions coming in, so
Yeah, people.
Okay. So after C-section, I'm unable to take up fast. You don't have to take up fast suddenly. You can do it very, very gradually. Like, for example, if you have the habit of eating breakfast at 8, postpone it to 9 once a week. And then the next week, postpone it to maybe 10:30, right? So you can do it very, very gently and gradually. Do we have any alternative option for sun basking? Yes, rain basking, right? And but for increasing vitamin D, I see your point. See, even through clouds, sun still comes through. Otherwise, how do you think plants grow? My teacher would ask. Even in rainy season, plants grow well, right? That means some amount of sunlight is coming through, and that is true for us also. Shall we eat 2 fruits for a meal? No, mono fruit is best, because each fruit comes with its own cleansing action. It is a little bit like mixing lime water and Vim and washing instead of just using one of the cleansers. It's more effective. Shall we eat veg salad with a fruit or for a meal? Vegetable salads are not to be mixed with fruit. It is used alone as a meal. So you have a fruit meal, and then separately you have a vegetable salad meal. Can we eat vegetable salad in dinner and cook food for dinner? Try to space it out. Try to have a gap of 2 hours between the two. But if you cannot, then start with the salad and eat cooked food, and slowly try to increase the gap. Having fruits is good for diabetic patients, since it does. Yeah, I think Ranganathan answered similarly. How does nature cure heal autoimmune diseases? Autoimmune diseases, the immune system is the Shishya, and our microbiome, as I mentioned, is the Guru. So if we take care of the Guru by supplying plenty of fiber and water and good quality, food, then the autoimmune diseases will go away, because our microbiome will be strengthened. What is your advice to increase immunity? I don't know if I have the time, but I can, if we have the time, like 3 or 4 minutes, I can run through some slides here. Gas formation. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Please shed light on squinting and cravings. Squinting is like, there is a weak link in the eye, which means that the circulation there is not nice. So you can look up online for courses to improve the wellness of the eye in particular, but just taking foods in accordance and doing plenty of exercise, which will cause like better circulation in the body, will also cause better circulation in the eye. And also check your habits. If you have the habit of looking at the screen for a long time, every 20 minutes take a break, and then do eye pack with a wet handkerchief or palming. We need these practices, especially in today's age. Cravings, right? Cravings are mainly because of either we have a deficiency or because our mind is not meaningfully engaged. And if we can kind of address both, I think cravings would come down. But we are also, what we eat. So suppose all my cells are made up of potato chips, those cells are going to demand more potato chips. The moment I start changing the composition, and then, I eat baked potato, then I move to carrots, then I have carrot cells. Carrot cells in me are going to demand more carrots, but potato chips cells will demand more potatoes. And that is the root cause of cravings as well. So we just need to make a clean break. And how to eat nuts and seeds and dried fruits? We just need to eat them in a soaked manner and alone by themselves. We don't combine it with anything. You can combine nuts with a few dry fruits, but it should be one type of nut. It should be soaked, and it should be not more than a fistful, right? And I think I'm just going to stop here and then try to share my screen, and just so we can have some action items.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. What can we do? I think that's what we are all asking. What can we do? And I think we can go from what we know to what we can know, and we can learn to read our body, and we can make health a priority. Because, as you know, the first half of our life, again, our teacher jokes that we try to earn wealth and lose the health. In the second half of our life, we try to lose wealth in search of health. So we can make it a priority right now when we still can. And the ultimate thing is to grow in enthusiasm and awareness towards this direction. So what do we already know? We know what happens to us, when we do all this, right? We already know this. So what we can know is, okay, am I really hungry? Did I sleep well? Am I feeling fresh? Did I have a timely elimination? Was it bad, in smell? And is the heat over my body even? Am I moving gracefully, or am I moving in a, um, sloppy manner? And do I have agility where needed? Do I have agility where it is not needed? And do I have clear skin? And is my body appropriate in size and shape to my bone structure? It's not one size fits all, but to my bone structure, are my body parts always attracting my attention? Do I keep itching here? Do I keep scratching there? Do I have a feeling of flow? Do I have a feeling of I'm well, right? So these are our health indicators, and we need to learn to observe these. And so mainly, I'll just leave you with 3 indicators. What is hunger, right? Many times we confuse hunger with the pangs of acidity that we feel, which is itself a product of the acidic foods and thoughts that we have, right? Real hunger means there's an emptiness in the stomach and there is more salivation because it's ready to digest, and your senses are sharper and you feel more energetic and ready to do work. So then you have real hunger. And yeah, then there is timely elimination. There should be no order. It shouldn't stick to the commode, and the color should be right. There should be no irritation. Same with urine. The color should not be strong, and there should be no irritation or pain. And sleep, immediately you go to sleep as you hit the bed, and there is no topsy-turvy kind of feeling, and you have like undisturbed sleep cycles, and you're not like walking or talking or snoring in the sleep, and you're not waking up too often for urination or thirst. That would indicate that the food that you ate is not right. And when you wake up, you're just jumping out of bed, right? So the health indicators say that none of the body parts should attract attention. And without even talking, our presence should be felt positively by those around us. So I'll leave you with like 5 guidelines for a good life, as given by our teacher, Dr. Arun Sharma. Ample exercise, adequate rest. Please note that it is not adequate exercise and ample rest, but ample exercise and adequate rest. And positive food, which includes all the subtle foods like space and air and light, and then positive thoughts, wishing everyone well, and not just wishing ourselves well, but wishing everyone well, from a certain natural tendency to be happy when somebody else is happy, and engaging our creative intelligence in service of ourselves and others. But I hear you, some of you are saying, I'm already healthy, what should I do? Past 35, I can confidently say that what we think of as health improvement is nothing but health maintenance, because we are all traveling in an escalator that is going down. After Thursday, I need to do an extra session of pranayama. I need to jog for 5 more.
Losing you in between. Can you hear me, Nisha? Nisha, can you hear us?
I think we've lost her.
We'll give it a few minutes and then we can wind down if we don't have her. But I'm sure she is there. She's
Yeah,
back.
there.
Nisha, you're on mute. Madhu, you may want
Give
to
me a second. Yeah.
For this opportunity, I really enjoyed it.
Yes, Nisha. Yes, Nisha, we can see the video.
No, I'm trying to.
Yeah. Well, while we are waiting for Nisha to come back online, just wanted to thank all of you for being here today. Thank you for supporting the Biobasics Huddle, and particularly thanks to Nisha for taking the time, the effort to put all these slides together and also explaining some of the principles. Now, I can tell you that nature cure or naturopathy is probably, you can't do justice to it by just 1 hour of a Zoom call. I mean, it's a very involved science. It's quite a deep science, and one needs to dedicate several hours, if not days and years. And I know that Nisha and Raghu have dedicated quite a few years of their lives, I must say, to this. To nature cure. So I personally have, myself and Devi, my wife, have gained a lot by being associated with Nisha and Raghu at their farm outside of Coimbatore. We have we ourselves follow nature cure principles, and we have personally gained a lot, not just by following the principles, but by having Nisha and Raghu to lean on whenever we have issues and doubts and questions. So I would encourage all of you to keep in touch with Nisha and with us as well in Biobasics. If Madhu, you can put up if you have the last slide or the contact details of Nisha and Biobasics,
Yes.
that would be helpful. Feel free to keep in touch with any of us. And the recording of this session will be available on our YouTube channel, Biobasics YouTube channel. And Madhu, do you have Nisha's contact address as well?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, here here's a mail ID that you can contact Nisha ma'am and their website.
Yes. So this is the email and the website. So feel free to reach out to her. I'm sure it will be beneficial for you. Feel free to do that. And once again, thanks. I'm sorry we don't have Nisha now. Looks like we've lost her connection. Thanks again for being with us. Do join us in the next Biobasics Huddle. We will let. I'm sure you've heard from your friends and other people who told you about this. So please do tune in next time we have Biobasics Huddle. Thank you and good night.